Okay, if you are an HTMA practitioner and your client sessions feel a little all over the place, or you're not always sure how to walk someone through their results without overwhelming them, I want to show you exactly how I structure mine. This is the same flow I use with clients, and it's made a huge difference in helping sessions feel more clear and organized. So when I first started using HTMA in my practice, one of the most challenging things for me to mentally wrap my head around was how I was going to present these somewhat complex looking test results to my clients and manage to tie them all in with, what they were experiencing on top of giving them recommendations for supplements and diet and lifestyle and all of those things. I felt like I was just completely scattered and I didn't like that feeling. And also like the deliverables I wanted to give them were kind of a mess too. I was getting them from different sources, different formats. It felt messy to me. So this is what I've done, and it has helped so much. My clients absolutely love this report that I give them. So let's walk through it. Starting out, I just wanted to package this really beautifully so that they had something they could keep and easily refer back to, or if they wanted to share it with, somebody on their medical team or even a spouse, they had this nice report that had everything in it all together and actually was easy to navigate and looked pretty too. I always have, the basics covered in the beginning, disclaimers, just a little overview again of hair tissue mineral analysis, just to kind of orient them. Obviously, they know what they signed up for, but it's just nice to have that in there, I feel. And then I like to give them a personalized note here, just kind of welcoming them. And when I had a couple different packages where sometimes I would go over reports in person, like on a Zoom call, and sometimes I would just deliver them via email. So I wanted my reports to be very thorough, but not overwhelming, but for the client to be able to walk through it themselves and mostly understand what they were looking at. And then, of course, follow up with me if they have questions and that sort of thing. I like to break down the report a little bit so it doesn't feel so overwhelming for them. Again, just to orient them somewhat in the beginning. So they're not, we're not walking through this or they're not looking at it thinking, where did this part come from? So at least they have the kind of the big picture here, what we're looking at. And then I use trace elements, and so we talk about the metabolic type. That's really important, and I think it was a good thing to cover right off the bat. So I would talk about the metabolic type, give them some visuals because that's always helpful. And then single minerals, starting there. Just again, showing them kind of what they impact, what we're looking at, because we would have discussed this, but sometimes it's nice to just have a refresher in a sense, whether you're walking through it with them or they're reading it themselves. Just these high level overviews that are very simple can make a really big difference. And then for me, we always focused on the first four minerals in a test. So kind of emphasizing that, especially on a first test, why we're doing that is what I would mention there. And then we would move on to their exact tests. So here is starting to break down their chart. So again, I'm not switching back and forth or referring to the full test result document like these pages because staring at that can just feel overwhelming. So I found that it was easier to pull out the section I was actually talking about so we can be kind of dialed in that way. So again, just an overview here, and then I would cover the first four to start, unless, of course, there was something super significant related to what they were dealing with over here. Um, I just didn't want to give too much information. And so I would just kind of bullet point what these things meant. And I ended up coming up with a system for that too. I have a whole spreadsheet of result snippets, so I wasn't constantly rewriting these or trying to track them down. I created a document for myself that was just super easy to go to. I had them all written out and I could just copy and paste them into here. So that saved me a lot of time putting reports together. It's enough to just give them some understanding of what this is related to and how they're feeling. And then, of course, if you're going over it with them in person, you could go into more detail on each of these. And I always just like space again to personalize it more. So this person had a calcium shell, so I noted that here. So I would just kind of do that for each relevant section on their report, moving through heavy metals the same way, noting, ones that I wanted to make a point to discuss, significant mineral ratios as well, kind of breaking them down, what they mean, what they're related to, the correlation to the client symptoms. And then again, just noting very brief bullet points, not trying to overwhelm them um, here on this side. And then, like I said in the beginning, another challenge I found was giving them, their results plus all my recommendations as a nutritional therapy practitioner. And so I wanted to combine everything into one format so they could access it easily. Everything was in one place. And so that's why after presenting the test results, I move into the recommendations. I would put a quick note here especially if I was just doing an email delivery that would kind of tie everything together and preface, what we're going to be talking about in the next few pages. So first I would have the diet recommendations, again, high level overall, kind of what the focus is, and then I would break down more specifically what I wanted them to be focusing on. In supplements, I use Vicon in my practice, so I had a page that walked them through that and kind of gave an example of what Vicon looked like, what they would expect. And again, if I had email delivered this only, they could literally read through this and understand the process. And then if we weren't using Vicon or I had other additional recommendations that I wanted to put in as far as supplements, I had another page that was just a simple table. So again, visually, it's very easy for them to take in to understand the instructions and additional notes if I had anything, or, I used full script so I could link that here for them if I put a cart together for them or whatever that might look like. So everything in one place there. And then to close out, just some simple lifestyle recommendations. Because likely if you are doing hair tissue mineral analysis with people, you're going to be working with them in an ongoing capacity to some extent. So, we don't need every single detail laid out here. This is just main points or recommendations that you're going to be working on with them as you go through your time with them. And also, I always like to recommend additional testing or resources so that they kind of know what to expect or what some of their other options are as far as moving forward with their health. And of course, if this is just a one-off test or something like that, you can make note here, I always did, of other options to work with me for ongoing support. So this is just the general structure I follow for my HTMA sessions. It helps keep everything super clear, organized, and not overwhelming for your client. This is also the exact framework I use inside my HTMA client report template, which is what I just walked you through. And then I have an accompanying snippets library that is all of the different variations of results that can come up on an HTMA test that you can just copy and paste directly into your reports and makes it so fast and easy. So if you want all of this already done, a plug and play system, I will link that for you below. But either way, I hope this gives you a clear starting point for your HTMA sessions.